Good morning, or is it good afternoon already? To check. Thank you for joining this panel, which to my mind, without much ado, captures the story of digital India. Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who is not a hostess to any of the introductions that can be around the brands he has worked with, grown. But I would say to start with straight away, Sanjeev, 12,500 internet connections is when Naukri was launched. And today, our panelist Gaurav Singh Kushwaha is capturing a market in 450 million internet mobile connections in Jio alone, and then there is Airtel and what else. So the whole market and landscape for folks here has changed. So हर आदमी के पास एक idea होता है. There is an idea which all of us nurture, but not everyone goes and gets it cracking like Sanjeev Bikhchandani and increasingly Gaurav Singh. So maybe we can start from there. What does it take to win in a market of 12,500, and what does it take to win today? Would you just start from there?
So we launched Naukri in April '97, and I saw the internet for the first time at an exhibition in Pragati Maidan in October '96, and so 14,000 actually, or 12,500 जो भी था, looked like a large number to me, right, at that stage. And I didn't have any idea कि internet बड़ा बनेगा, .com valuation होगी, venture capital मिलेगा, company public जाएगी, उसका कोई अनुमान नहीं था. There was no idea, right? What I simply thought was, if I can get 500 companies every month to pay me 1,000 rupees to list one job on the website, that's 5 lakh rupees a month, 60 lakh rupees a year. It looks like it could be, and if I could get there in 3 years, then it looks like it could be a nifty small business. We were then running out of out of my residence, doing salary surveys and such like. And our total turnover was 12-13 lakh rupees a year. And I wasn't taking a salary, just breaking even. And so, अगर 12 से 60 लाख हो जाए, मैंने सोचा कि it's a good business. So, कोई vision नहीं थी. There was nothing. It was nifty small idea. Now, as it happened, right place, right time, worked hard, worked smart, got lucky. Good people joined. Venture capital आया. We were able to grow and scale the company. But जब हमने चालू किया था, that was not the vision. It was simply कि break even करना है. उस समय कोई venture capital था नहीं इंडिया में, बहुत ही कम था. And अब 12,500 accounts में या 14,000 accounts में, how internet accounts में, how do you break even? Can you get 1,000 companies to pay you 500 rupees per job, or 500 companies pay you 1,000 rupees, and that's it. So there was a sales target. तो जब company के पास, जब startup के पास vision होता है ना, वो startup loss बनाता है. जब startup का sales target होता है ना, वो startup break even करता है. And then we went along the way. As the internet grew, we grew. Our ambitions grew. We raised venture capital, and we made losses for a couple of years, small losses, and then broke even again. And finally, we were able to list the company and then diversify, invest in other startups and so on. So we take it one day at a time. Yeah. There wasn't any long-term game plan to build a large company.
Right. So for those of you who don't follow Hindi, the best ones come in Hindi as well. So you can raise your hand and Sanjeev will have to translate some of the lapses into Hindi. But on a lighter note, Sanjeev, would you have been able to set up Naukri at this age of the internet in India? Or actually, that's not even a possibility?
It was at that time, at that place, with the kind of talent, very rudimentary, basic talent that I possessed. I'm not a techie. हाथ पांव मार के हमने कुछ कर दिया, right? In today's day and age, probably even the opportunity would not be, somebody else would have done it by now. But let's say if I were to start a tech company today, I would have to get some serious tech people around me immediately. And get to know the customers' pain points and then do something probably different, but and it would probably take a lot more capital.
And get an expensive consultant as well. That would
yes, possibly.
Okay, so
we don't get expensive consultants.
So abundant disclaimer. I hear there's been
yeah, we have info. Edge Ventures has invested in BlueStone, and it was announced just yesterday. It was not planned this way, that we would be on the same panel, but just the day after the investment, but we invested yesterday.
So guys, quick round of applause for our young friend who's got himself some funding. And
Thank you, everyone. And
typically
very
all of
excited
us
to
say,
have-
idea to hamare paas bhi hai, paise nahi hai. So now you know, there's
sir.
somebody
And-
here who just cut a check yesterday. So he's going to have an alibi and say, yaar, ek do din abhi gap de do.
So thank you, everyone, and very excited to have Sanjeev on board. I think he's a veteran, and I'm looking forward to learn a lot from him.
Right. So now that you have the digital landscape, the way it is growing, and sometimes the exabytes and the petabytes are part of the equation, and we've had a historical context and someone who has stayed relevant continuously. How does your business really fight it out in the new India that is digital India?
Sure. So I'll come to that, but I'll give a little bit more color about myself. So I'm a computer science graduate. So I graduated in 2001 from IIT Delhi, and BlueStone is not the first venture. My first venture was called Chakpak.com, and that was started back in 2006. And that was also the time when when smartphones were not around, and internet connections were in the range of 200,000 to 300,000. The promise of that reaching a million, 2 million, and so on. So I had also seen kind of not the very early days, but that made part of the journey. And the whole behavior, I think, changed somewhere around 2009, 2010. So when I started BlueStone in 2012, smartphones were also around, and shopping was picking up in a big way. So Chakpak.com was in a social networking space with the business, with the revenue, or with the monetization being ad driven, which was something that we struggled with big time. So while because the base was low, and there were not too much money that was being made on internet, right? So if once first layer of companies start making money, then that money would flow to other content companies and so on. So the idea behind starting BlueStone was to start something where the monetization is built in the business model itself, and it's not like, okay, you grow to 100 million users and then think of monetization. So did not want to do that kind of a thing. And at that time, the capital, etc., was available. There was a lot more capital available at that time for e-commerce and for vertical e-commerce, etc. And we started with seed capital. We started with funding from Excel partners and so on. So we did kind of built it in slightly inorganic fashion, and not just, let's say, kind of joining piece by piece, capital wise. But if you look at the business wise, we built it very, very fundamentally. So when we started, the idea was that we'll build an online first jewelry or online only jewelry brand. The idea was that we'll build an online only or jewelry offering. Then we realized 3-4 months into the business that marketplaces don't work in case of gold and diamond jewelry. You'll have to make a brand. So we decided to have our own design teams and so on. We realized that in order to provide quality products, we need to get into manufacturing because the supply side is highly unreliable. We also realized that if we were to provide some 10,000 design options to people, we can't inventorize everything with the little capital available to us. So we would have to do just-in-time manufacturing in order to provide a meaningful browsing. So we did a lot of those things. So we did build it grounds up, very, very fundamentally. And I think one of the things that worked in our favor was there were not too many believers in this category. So we had the time to actually build it the right way. Now what happens is in many of the businesses, because I'm coming to a point, there are almost 500 million internet users already. Now the moment everyone thinks that this is an opportunity and that it's going to be of scale, you see too much capital chasing it. And then suddenly what happens is you have 10 players. All having access to capital, and the one who wins is the one who actually scales faster, not necessarily the one who is building it right. And sometimes the one who is scaling up faster is also not building it right. So I've seen several cases where both the companies eventually fail, one for the want of capital and one which had excess capital. So one from fasting, one from feasting. So both companies die. So I think that's also one of the flip side of too much capital and too much capital chasing the same opportunity.
Can there be too much capital? But resources curse is pretty much an idea that you very correctly flagged. But important part is that with the 500 million or plus 500 million plus and mobile internet users at that, and in your sector, just drilling down for one more minute, You have, the whole business of physical store, going there. Traditionally, so and so is known to us for 3 generations and all that. How do you really flip the customer to actually come to you and not to, let's say, a Tata or a Reliance who have the corporate brand name to support as opposed to the physical infrastructure of the traditional jeweler?
Sure. So when we started the idea, the thought that I had was this is a category which has incumbents which are not that tech savvy, and tech, for what I strongly believe is, that technology is going to upend almost every category, let's say, in given infinite time. So I said, okay, there are people who are not that comfortable with tech. We can use tech and build an online only business. And we kind of worked on that. So we worked on product presentation. We worked on, so for example, when we started the business and we tried photography, tried to take photograph of the product, we realized that it's just impossible to do beautiful jewelry photography. So we assured something called 3D rendering. So all the photographs on our website are 3D rendered. Now, and then just-in-time manufacturing. So we did a lot of things to make it work in an online-only fashion, and ours was a tech-first approach to begin with. And then I think somewhere around 2015-16, and while online was growing, there was one big realization we had, that we have created a very beautiful way for people to browse jewelry, and lots of consumers have actually started browsing the jewelry. But because the brand was so nascent and was only online, and because the channel was also only internet, the comfort of actually making that 40,000, 50,000, 80,000 purchase was not there. So basis our survey, we realized that we were actually converting in an online only avatar. We were only converting 1 out of 30 who could potentially convert. So the writing was on the wall that we are already actually generating significant demand. All we need to do was to provide them the right experience. And just building on top of that, the biggest difference is, let's say, if you go to a jewelry store today, you just cannot browse, let's say, and that behavior is very, very fundamental to the way we shop today. If you go back 30 years, 40 years, and let's say, just try to imagine how we used to buy shirts. You would actually go to a shop and tell that person that, okay, give me a check shirt or a check piece, and then you would say chota check, bada check, mota check, and so on. You would sit on the counter, iterate, and then complete your purchase. Then came large format stores, which actually replaced those counters with aisles, and browsing became the primary behavior and buying became the end product of that. Then came online, which made those aisles endless, and that browsing continuous. So no more just weekend browsing, week-long browsing, while you're commuting, while you're having lunch, while you're waiting for someone, and so on. Now come to jewelry category. Nothing of that happened. While the consumer had moved, the category did not. So when we provided them a meaningful browse experience online, we saw a lot more demand for that. And you just cannot go to a jewelry store, a regular traditional jewelry store, for 20 days in a row and browse for jewelry. They won't let you in. They'll say, "Kyun roz aake time kharab karne lag jate?" Right? No one would actually encourage you. So the browsing is primary, which a lot of people also say research, that a lot of people are actually in high value categories. People are doing research online. So if you're buying car these days, I don't think any of you would just go walk into a dealership cold. You would do a lot of research online. So a lot of decision making is happening online. But in the high value categories, you need stores to convert that into business, which is essentially what our business model is, which is very different from Tata's, Reliance, or whosoever has been doing it for many years.
Okay, so we will have a round of questions, and those hoping to sort of get my eye. There's an incentive, in one of the, I think on conferences, somebody said, Chinese food ka McDonald's banana chahta hu, and Sanjeev bankrolled it immediately. So these things happen over a quick question. So Sanjeev, what is the prism or filter you use when, with your wide experience in seeing successful startups and not so successful startups? What is the founder's mindset or play that you look at when you filter through my question from, let's say, your own self, maybe Dipinder in Zomato, or Yashish in Policy Bazaar, or some of the other folks who have gone through this filter of yours? What is common or what is the real thing not to do when you are confronting Sanjeev Bikhchandani?
No. First of all, almost all our investments that we made, we invested about 85, 90 startups till now in the last 15 years. Almost all of them have been very early stage companies where we've usually been the first institutional check-in. There have been a few which have been later stage, where the company has already achieved something. There's a track record. You have data to assess. You have comparables in the market. So when we went into Policy Bazaar, it was not even a PowerPoint. Okay. When we went to Zomato, it was then called Foodie Bay. They were doing 1 lakh rupees a month of revenue, right? Very early stage. This is different. This is we've gone into a few companies late stage, and this is one of them. So there was already a track record, right? What happened in this case was there's an investor whom we know very well, whom we trust a lot, and who said, "Listen, there's this company. We've done all the work, but for technical reasons, we can't go in, but you should look at it." I'm endorsing it thoroughly. I think that endorsement led us to shake hands and meet up a few times. Now, we like the people. We like what they're trying to do. Market is big and growing. Titan has just bought Carrot Lane at a very high valuation. We're getting a better deal. Yeah, I mean, on a revenue multiple basis, much more than what we're getting in at. So it's a good deal. They have a very clear strategy. How are we different? It's a good omni-channel strategy. They're on the verge of breaking even, right? With this round, they should get to break even. So many things went for it. And so this is not our typical early stage investment. This is a late stage investment for us, but these are all the things that went, into this decision.
Right. And when you get it wrong, when the whole thing capsizes, what do you do really to confront failure in the eye? Do you just walk away and stop thinking about it, or is it more like a wound you carry?
Well, look, the question is reason for failure. If the reason for failure is, good entrepreneur, tried hard, didn't work, lost money, it's okay. Yeah? I mean, life mein hota hai, right? If the reason for failure is perhaps some subterfuge, that is when you don't let go, right? And you chase it to its logical conclusion. And so it all depends. See, I would say the vast majority of entrepreneurs have been invested behind, including the ones that have not done well. The entrepreneurs themselves have been very, very good, very honest, very hardworking. And it's a testimony to Indian entrepreneurs that the vast majority of them are clean, ultra clean, working hard. And sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't, and that's life.
Right. So you don't lose sleep over this.
No. See,
how do you face your board? Because for those who don't know, Sanjeev takes bets on behalf of the parent company, and this is investor money, and his responsibility is not running the flagship, which is Naukri, but more quite taking bets. So how do you really confront failure?
First of all, if we ourselves have been diligent and thorough in our processes, in studying the companies, track and monitoring them after we invest, then the board is fairly forgiving that हमने कोई गलती नहीं की है other than error of judgment, right? Business judgment. It also helps that we've got two massive successes in Zomato and Policy Bazaar, that the investing strategy has been proven, and therefore, I get forgiven, right? But obviously, every investment is a new investment, and you've got to be very diligent and thorough, and try and ensure you're not making the same old mistakes.